Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Open Mic Program. And we do have Senator John Boozman with us right now. And Senator, as always, thanks for taking time and talking with us.
Hey, Bob. Thank you so much for having me, as always, also.
Well, I know the big story right now is Russia. And I know Congress had the opportunity to advance sanctions and get tough on Russia. Last month, Senator, you voted the sanction, which the Senate Democrats blocked. But now we've seen the president sanction the company behind the natural gas pipeline. How do you feel Congress coming together on this? It seems like, why wouldn't they have done something earlier than after the horse gets out of the gate?
Well, I felt like they ought to go ahead and start putting sanctions on because of the buildup. It was pretty obvious what they were going to do. Our intelligence is excellent. We saw them massing on the border. And so this was firing a warning shot, that we would sanction then and then go further if they encroached even more. And we couldn't get the votes to do that. Now we're in the situation that we're in. And I think Putin probably would have done it anyway. He's intent on reclaiming the old Soviet Union. The question now is, what do you do? And so we're going to be working with the president, working with all of our colleagues in Congress, and I hope that we put some very, very stringent sanctions on Russia and make them pay a really big price. The problem, Bob, is that China's sitting over there looking. If they feel like we and the rest of the world are not stepping up and really taking this head on, and I'm not talking about troops or anything like that, but if we don't make Russia pay the price, then there's a fair chance the Chinese will invade Taiwan.
That's something that they've said, that China is really kind of supporting Russia in some ways. Do you believe that?
Well, they formed this alliance in a sense. Both of them are saying that this is territorial dispute, that Russia has claims on Ukraine, and then likewise the Chinese are backing their claim on Taiwan. These are difficult times. I've been impressed that the Europeans, who sometimes are very wishy-washy, they depend on Russia for their oil and gas, but they've said, hey, this is too much. We're not going to tolerate it. As far as we've gone so far, have really talked tough, and we hope that follows through with actions.
One thing we got coming up is the State of Union Tuesday, and I guess that's a bad timing for the president, but how do you think this crisis for the White House messaging for the State of the Union address for next week, how are they going to handle this?
Yeah, well, he's going to, certainly need to know what Telus is planned for Ukraine. We'll have to watch and see how this war unfolds, and it truly is a war. I hope that he talks about the true state of the Union. And the State of the Union, as I go around Arkansas, people are very, very concerned about paying their bills. They're seeing inflation skyrocket. The president has come back with, instead of dealing with it, is talking about throwing gas on the fire by still wanting to pass this $2 trillion Build Back Better, Build Back Broke, whatever you want to call it, bill. But is all that would do, like I say, is make inflation worse. So I hope he talks about inflation. I hope he talks about the supply chain, labor, and then the other thing I hear so much about is the open border and crime in our cities throughout the country. So this is the State of the Union. I wish he would address some plans to provide some leadership to move us in the right direction.
Congress is always working on a lot of issues, crafting legislation that benefit veterans, and that's something you and I have talked about since I've known you, back in when you were in the Congress. You look at veterans, longstanding effort where the Congress comes together on this, and the Senate recently passed a bill that you championed to expand health care for post-9/11 toxic exposed veterans. Talk about that for a moment.
Well, Bob, that's so important. And as you say, we've known each other for a long time, and I will do anything I can to make sure that veterans get what they're due. We always must remember these aren't give-me's, these are earned benefits. One of the things that we found is that people that served in the Middle East during the Gulf Wars are developing various diseases. And it seems to be that the result of that, various diseases at early ages, weird disease, it seems to be that that's a result of the toxic exposure from burn pits. And so we passed some legislation, passed it out of our committee, and then went on and by unanimous consent, Democrats and Republicans working together passed it out of the Senate. And what it does is a number of things. About a third of the veterans that served in the Gulf Wars, they didn't have the ability to access health care. And so this expands health care for those that perhaps were exposed to these chemicals. And then also it provides a lot of research dollars so that we can better understand what's going on, what these toxic chemicals have done, how we can prevent perhaps disease from forming, and then very importantly, treat it if it does form. So lots of good stuff. It's a good step in the right direction for these men and women that risk their lives, to go over there. We sent them. Now we've got to take care of it.
I feel like I always do a commercial when we talk about veterans, but there is so many veterans that do not take advantage of the opportunity that they have as being a veteran. And there's some things, if they got questions, your office is always open for that. And how can a veteran, if they've got questions about health care, about some of the needs that they might have, how can they get a hold of your office, and how does that go about?
Well, they can look on the website, and it will show them, Google John Boozman, Senate office, whatever, and it'll pop up. Yes, we can very definitely help. We can help with health care issues, disability type issues, just the whole gamut. Sometimes we'll have problems where maybe they need to get their veterans identification number. They've lost it. The list goes on and on, but we're committed. In fact, the entire Arkansas delegation is committed. I know you're committed to helping veterans any way that we can. And not just on Veterans Day, every day of the year. This is a group that we've got to take care of, and again, in a very deservedly way.
I always like going back and talking about my father on that he was a veteran back in 1950 to 53 and never used anything. And someone asked him later in life where he had to have, I don't remember, some kind of surgery. And they said, you're a veteran. This probably would be covered. You don't have to have insurance or all the stuff they had back then. It was taken care of in full. Even when it got to hospice, the veterans, there's some things that can be taken care of. So I encourage folks to contact your office and just find out that way. And also medals. I've heard of medals being lost, and you guys have helped that in the past.
Yes, very much so. And that's so important. And so many of the people that have served are humble. They're just regular people that did extraordinary things. And so they don't think a lot about that. But I think it's so important. Those medals have been lost. In some cases, just through inadvertent whatever, were never given, even though they actually earned them. But it's important that they receive that recognition. And I think very much so also that their families, as they see these medals and things, that they understand what their loved one went through. So many people, especially our World War II, our Korea, many of our Vietnam vets, they just went and served, came home, never talked about it, just went back to work. But they need to be recognized, and we need to remember the cost, the sacrifice of all of these people that served us and served us so very well.
Well, we will definitely share this program on our website at kffb.com, as well as they can look up your website, and we'll have the information there. So if you know a veteran, or if you are a veteran, we want to take care of you.
Very much so.
Well, Senator, thanks so much for taking time and talking with us here on Open Mic.
Well, thank you again so much for having me. I look forward to being in the studio with you or at some event out and about. Nobody gets out and around more than you do, and your shows are just invaluable as far as presenting information. And you do a great job of making it very conversational, where we can talk about these current issues, which are so important to your listeners.